So I really want women to stop telling themselves this big old lie that they didn't know someone was married. Enough, okay? All right, y'all, welcome back to my channel, Dina J from Around the Way. So I was so triggered by a video by this lady on TikTok who was 41 and claimed to have gotten pregnant by a married man unbeknownst to her. And it really, really made me think about how too often women get really comfortable with the unknown that they don't seek in these type of situations. Because honey, there is a way to figure this out all the time. And let me tell you something, the way things work today, it's not like we back in the 1800s or early 1900s where, you didn't have no phone, you had a pigeon, carrying letters to wherever you needed to go. No. Nowadays, there are so many resources for women to be able, and men, because it does work both ways. But there are resources for both sides to know who's married, who's not, et cetera, et cetera. And I also experienced some levels of these type of deceptions, not only within my own marriage, but then even in dating, in the dating world, where I was also met with these type of situations. Anyway, let's talk about why women want to be delusional versus actually being delusional, because it's just a bunch of BS. So either way, the woman, her name is Kui 41, I think it is, and she went and decided to share with the whole TikTok world about how she was pregnant by a married man and she didn't know, and this man got her all caught up in this relationship and yada yada and blah blah blah.
Started to find out that my baby's okay and in my uterus where they should be, and my hormone levels are where they should be. So within a day of finding all that out, the father of my child said he doesn't want this. He doesn't think this is a good idea, and he wants me to not keep the baby. Let me be very clear that my child's father was very aware of what was going on. This wasn't like nobody was trapped. He repeated over and over and over again how bad he wanted us to have a baby, how bad he wanted me to have a baby, how bad he wanted me to get pregnant. And then I get pregnant, and he's like, no. And today he told me, well, listen, you have to get rid of the baby because actually I'm married. When we got together, thought we were getting divorced. I had requested a divorce, things was done, I thought, but that didn't happen. And now I'm trying to work my marriage out. So you cannot have my baby. So now here we are.
Unfortunately, I cannot get the original video anymore. I don't know if she changed it, removed it, hid it. I don't know. But I think there's been so much scrutiny about it that, her original video isn't showing anymore. So anyway, so many people had reactions to this video. And honestly, it's not nothing new. It's probably weeks old, maybe a month old at this point. But either way, the topic at hand still stands. And I don't know why people or women, men, in these type of situations act so hurt and surprised by very telltale signs of people being in committed relationships. And I'm not gonna hold you. I know that people that are being deceptive in their relationships are really good liars sometimes, but there are still ways for you to know what exactly is going on to some extent. You know what I'm saying? It's never not a way to hide all of it completely. So when people say, I didn't know he had a girlfriend, or I didn't know, she had a boyfriend, or I didn't know he was married, or I didn't know she was married, do you really not know, or did you just choose not to investigate? Nowadays, you can find things so quickly on Google, you can find some things so quickly on all the social media platforms. And unless the person is non-existent online, which I know some people are, you can absolutely find the information. It is not that difficult. It is not that difficult. And I feel like people nowadays just don't do their due diligence. I typically, when I meet somebody in any capacity that I know there's going to be some level of intimacy, and I'm not even talking about true intimacy, but just, we're sharing information or exchanging stories or just getting to know one another, I look them up. And sometimes I find some things and sometimes I don't, but I always do my search. And I think that people nowadays just have to look into anyone and anything that is going to be tied to their personal life in any type of way. Like even people that, you know, you're befriending and things like that, look them up. Look them up, because some people got criminal history. Some people got history in general that you may or may not mind being tied to. So I say, make sure that you are keeping up with all of that stuff. And some people just ignore the plain old signs that are right in front of them. So it can be, like I mentioned a moment ago, no social media presence, only texting after certain hours, only available after certain hours, just weird behavior when they're around you. If you meet up with them and they're looking left and right, or they want to meet in very low-key spots, those are typically telltale signs. Sometimes they're real vague about their lives, or sometimes there are inconsistencies on what they're telling you about their lives. Those are all telltale signs. And I will say, like, even, and I want to say maybe I mentioned something like this in the beginnings of some of my videos, that there have been people I've gone out with it before, only a couple times, that were obviously married once I started to learn a little bit more about them. Like one gentleman, it only took like the first date for me to figure it out, because we were going on the first date. He seemed really nervous, not just like nervous about meeting me, but just nervous in general, looking around, very cautious of what he was saying. And then also when he asked to go out again, I suggested that we go out to dinner, and he was just like, oh no, I can't really do that. You know, he didn't give me an excuse as to whether he worked nights or anything like that. He just said he can't really do that. And I was just like, why? And he gave me no real reason. Fast forward, his wife called me like 2 weeks later and was like, how do you know him? And da 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 da. And I'm just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. So I answered the questions that she asked me, and I let it go from there. But there was absolutely some telltale signs that I was able to notice in that interaction. And then the other guy, I was just able to like Google and find the information. I found his wedding registry, which I said, oh, okay, we're done. And I cut it off right away. I don't care what anybody's excuse is. Married is married. I don't care if you try to say, oh, we've been separated for so long. We've been this, we've been that. Married is married. And in my marriage, the excuse that the other woman gave, and he told me he was separated, and you know, well, then he told me he was getting the divorce and she was dating him for 2 years. Please miss me with all of that, because there's no way, there's absolutely no way you would have been able to come to his house. And I was like, girl, miss me with all of that. I asked her, did you ever go to his house? And she said no. So I was just like, so you were with a man for 2 years and you never went to his house? And she was like, well, he told me he lived with his mom. And I was just like, well, regardless of whether he lived with his mother or not, you were dating him for 2 years. You couldn't verify that information? Did you ever go to his mom's house? She said no. So I'm like, okay, you just decided to be silly and dumb in this situation, because if you would have went to his house in any way, of course you would have seen that it was a marital home. But how do you not go to a man's house for 2 whole years that you're dating, and that's not a question for you, whether he lives with his mama or not? Like, go to the mama house. Beyond that, I'm like, okay, my ex-husband used to come home. Now, there were a couple of work trips that he would mention every now and again, like once a quarter, that would pop up out of nowhere. And then he would, you know, go on these trips. And I found out he was just right down the street staying at her house. But for the most part, he was home, right? So I'm just like, so how the heck did you believe you were in a relationship? Because she told me they were full-blown boyfriend and girlfriend while he was married. And I was just like, okay, whatever. But she decided to believe all of that. But there were so many signs then. And I'm just like, how? How did you even get caught up in that? So I personally never believed her version or her story of her telling me that she didn't know that my ex-husband was married when she was dealing with him. And I'm just like, it's all BS, because she chose to not investigate those things. Like, a lot of those things are easily identifiable. So when I think about why certain people do these type of things, I think that there is a level of willful ignorance that women want to pursue, mostly women, right? I don't know that I know of any men that have actively dealt with a woman that was married and were flabbergasted or unaware of that situation. Now, I'm sure they're out there, I'm sure, and I'm curious to see what that looks like when it comes to their perspective of them being men and dealing with women that lied to them about being married, right? But I don't know. And I think it's funny when I think about that type of situation when it comes to a man being bamboozled by a woman and whether or not she's married. I think about Brown Sugar in that scene where Taye Diggs catches his wife in the movie cheating on him, and he announces their divorce or whatever. Like, it's a really funny moment. But in real life, I don't know that I've ever encountered a man or known of a man that was with a woman that was married and he didn't know. So I cannot speak to what that experience is like. But when it comes to women, just knowing because I'm a woman, I don't know if it's validation, loneliness, the thrill of attention, or a false hope that keeps women in these situations. And I often believe that the way the man treats whomever he was with while he was with you is the way he's going to treat you. And I definitely was able to see that very, very plainly once I was out of my marriage. I mean, the same behavior happened to the now girlfriend. So, I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster, because my thing is this: you're willfully engaged with someone who treats people like this, right? And unless everybody is in the know of the situation, or if it's an open marriage, or it's polyamorous, or whatever, most of the time, the person on the other end of the deceit is unaware of the betrayal that they are facing. And I will say, speaking from experience, that is super painful. It is painful to go through that type of heartbreak. So for you to knowingly and willingly put yourself in a position to claim your stake for that man that was married is just like, what does that say about you? What does that say about your desperation? What does that say about your loneliness? What does that say about your self-esteem? And what does that say about your need to be validated? Because I can say 120, 1,000% that I will never knowingly put myself in the position to be with a married man, and he's actively hurting his wife, and it's a active thing. And even if he decides to come out of it and still stay with me, I would never trust the situation. Plus, what does that say about my character, right? I'm going to always be looking over my shoulder as to whether or not this man is going to do me the same, because he literally did the same thing to a woman while with me. Like, how do you justify that? To me, I think people that keep themselves in those type of situations have low self-esteem, low regard for themselves, low standards. It may seem harsh, but it's just the truth. And my thing is, there's some type of sisterhood betrayal. Like, I can understand why certain people are like, she don't owe you nothing, be upset with the man, da-da-da. Like, that's always the feedback and those type of things in that type of situation. But my thought is also like, yo, I'm gonna look out for another woman before I look out for this man that either hurt me if I didn't know about the situation, and then hurt her too. Like, I cannot be a part of somebody else's heartbreak to say that I won him. Like, no, that's not cool. We end up contributing to the harm that we claim we want to avoid, right? Unless you just don't care about cheating, unless you don't care about betrayal, unless you don't care about none of this stuff. When I think about being party to someone's hurt and then thinking that I'm going to get better, I think about, I'm like, dang, like, usually those situations come down on people 10 times worse. I don't want that for myself. I wouldn't want that for myself at all. When women say they're girls, right, I wonder what they would do in those situations. Are you a girl's girl if you're willing to be with someone that has a girlfriend or is in a committed relationship and they are likely hurting that person, right? Now, like I said, if it's open, it's open. And if everybody's in the know, everybody's in the know. But if there's someone on the other side that is going to be betrayed, because of your involvement with their person, what does that make you? You're not a girl's girl. You're not a people's people. You can't, because you're about yourself and what needs you think you're fulfilling over the best and the right thing to do for yourself. And karma is a tricky thing. So think about how that's going to come right back to bite you if you partake. I don't know. It's just something to consider. So listen, I might strike a chord. I might make you upset, whatever. Like if you've involved yourself with somebody that's committed, if you've done it in the past, I hope you're not doing that no more. No. But I really hope that if people are making these type of decisions and it's hurtful to other people, that you change or that you hold yourself accountable. Because this notion of, saying that I didn't know, I think it's a cop-out. I think it's a way to save face. I think it's a way to take some of the onus of how bad things look off of you, saying, I didn't know he had a girlfriend. I didn't know he had a wife. I didn't know. But you really could have figured it out. You really could have found out if you wanted to. You really could have. And because you chose not to, and then stay in the delirium and the delusion and just accept the lies that were told to you, if that's true even, you are going to walk into a world of hurt and pain on the strength of you not being responsible. Making sure that you do your due diligence when it comes to your life and how it's going to unfold in this new relationship, this new situation, or anything like that. I am big on integrity, character, and all of that. And I'm not going to paint myself as like a saint when it comes to like doing the right thing in all aspects. But when it comes to the cheating thing and that type of deceit and, all of those type of relational things, I ain't for it. And I know I can't handle it. Like, I know that I cannot handle that if someone were to do it to me, and I wasn't able to handle that when it was done to me. So I'm not going to turn around and do it to somebody else, because the type of, like, when I tell you women go through heartbreak, like they go through it when they're cheated on. It is super unfortunate, but they go through it, and it is so hurtful. And it takes a lot to recover from. And when you learn that another woman just was so careless with your own life and kind of was a contributor to the destruction of it, my gosh. It is something that you have to really fight to get over. And it's no fun, right? So let's please stop the delusion. Let's please stop the lies that we tell ourselves when we say, I didn't know such and such was in a relationship. I didn't know. You knew. And if you really didn't know, then you really chose not to know for a long time. Because I don't know how these people get pregnant. I don't know how these people are in relationships for 2 years. I don't know how you're in full-blown relationships with people and you don't know that they have a full husband, wife, and kids out here. But hey, that's just me. Anyway, if my content is resonated with you, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see y'all next week, okay? All right. Bye. All right. Thank you for watching. Bye.